Now, I was listening to the Mayo and Kermode podcast. Do you ever listen to that, their film podcast?
I've never actually heard it. I hear it's amazing.
It's very, very good. But Mr. Kermode, he gets tetchy. He gets ranty and angry with Mr. Mayo, to the extent that I feel quite sorry for Mr. Mayo.
Oh, he gets angry with Mayo, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, on the one I listened to...
Right.
Mr. Kermode was getting quite angry with Mr. Mayo. I felt sorry for...
Theatrically angry, or did it seem genuine?
Well, he's a passionate man, Mr. Kermode.
Sure he is.
You know, so who knows where the theatrics
I like the way
end.
You pronounce it like Kermode.
Is that wrong?
like a lavatory.
How do you pronounce it?
Kermode.
Kermode. I'm famous for pronouncing things wrong.
I
pronounce everything wrong.
Commode.
But when we don't get as tetchy as that.
No, I mean, we used to in the olden days. There was tetch. When we were at XFM, there was tetch. But that's in the past.
Coming up in the show today. Well, we've got reviews of Screaming Man, Love Like Poison, Take Me Home Tonight,
and Fisticuffs with Joe Cornish.
Fisticuffs with Joe Cornish, who I thought was a terrific guest. In fact, because one of the reasons I thought he was a terrific guest was he did exactly. It's interesting, when he was on air, there was a lot of people tweeting to say, "Oh, it sounds like it's really kicking off. It sounds like it's really frosty. It sounds like they're really having a go."
That's because they're just used to asinine, boring.
But exactly,
normally.
the thing that I think that was great about Joe Cornish, because you'll hear this coming up in the show, is that there's a difference of opinion. And somebody tweeted saying how great to hear people actually disagreeing, but in a civil fashion. That's
all
good.
that to come. We're very pleased to have Joe Cornish in the studio. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's an honour to be on your show.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? Just in general,
just about life.
What with your movie and all?
Oh, I'm very excited. I'm quite tired because I've been doing a lot of press stuff. But no, really excited, and yeah, it's amazing. For me, it's a wish fulfillment, lifetime dream to make a film. It's amazing to have finished it. And
have you read all the reviews?
I can't tell you that.
Are you pretending that you haven't read the reviews?
I can't tell you that either.
We could read them all out to you if you want.
No, don't do that. It's cool. I like that. The reviews are pretty good. I think they're pretty good. Most people get it. Most people understand it, and a lot of people are really, really, really digging it, so I'm excited.
They're really digging it. Do people actually still talk like that?
I do, yeah.
You're coming across quite hostile.
I quite like that. Well, he hasn't heard what you're going to say about the film yet.
No, he knows what I think about the film.
How does he know that?
Well, I did a thing about it a couple of weeks. Oh, no, unless you haven't. I'm sure you've seen it. You know exactly what I think.
Listen, I'm a filmmaker now.
Oh, fine. So
yeah,
sorry.
I used to be a critic. I did it for 6 months.
He's got better things to do than watch your blog.
Fine.
But the point is, it would be ignoble of me to engage directly with. Part of the fun of film is to have opinions. Of course,
So you're not going to engage with Mark.
Well,
I think it would be weird in a sort of critical way. But no.
But we can talk.
You know what I mean?
We can talk about the things I like and the things I don't like. My reservations.
I don't mean like that, but I mean just to engage with individual critics is not something that generally.
So you just talk to me and ignore him for the next half.
Yeah, no, you two are an exception.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's all right. Phew.
Although the other week on your show,
because your opinions are your opinions, I wouldn't want to talk about someone else's opinions without them.
No, that's fine. That's fair. No, exactly. But
that's
fine. The other week on your show, you said that I snapped at him.
I listened to your podcast a lot, and I listened to it on the plane.
Well,
the
it's
other
reciprocal.
Day. And I just felt it was getting. I mean, Adam and I get a little snappy sometimes in these long media marriages.
Yes,
we get a little bit snappy, and I can sometimes feel it a little bit in the air in a nice, fun way. But yeah, I felt for you that time.
Does, yeah.
You said I snapped at him.
You were I can't remember what you were being snappy about. It's probably quite justified.
It was a general sort of. You said he snaps at Simon, and I said, and apparently,
and in your heart, that's in your dark heart,
Republican heart.
I know
that's true.
Look, we're needlessly late to the news. Sometimes it's appropriate to be late for the news because there's big stuff happening. That was just preamble and waffle.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Kermode and Mayo's film review.
Do you remember last week our correspondence about the video hall in Manang?
I do.
Which started the exotic places to see a film sequence. This from Ed Gardner, who says, I've recently started attending a gym and am finding the sudden onset of exercise a bit of a shock to the system, albeit eased by listening to the podcast during workouts. Until this recent foray, the last time I did anything vaguely physical was when I trekked the Annapurna circuit in Nepal 3 years ago, during which one of the highlights was a particularly oxygen-starved showing of Into Thin Air at the video hall in Manang. Whilst listening to the podcast last week, I nearly fell off the treadmill at the mention of the video hall and was thrilled to hear that Into Thin Air is still number one at the box office there. In fact, the list of titles you read out was identical to the bill during my stay in 2008. And this got me thinking, could it be that Into Thin Air at the video hall Menang is the longest theatrical run of a single film in a single cinema? This is the mousetrap. This is the equivalent. And he also adds, one more thing, you can try and do live entertainment from Menang, but you won't get any equipment there. It's only accessible by foot or by mule and is more than a week's walk from the nearest road.
Is it not accessible by helicopter?
No, apparently not.
Well, how can it...
So there you go. So in other words...
Isn't everywhere accessible by helicopter?
Joe Cornish, if you think you're going to get your movie into the video hall in Menang, I'm sorry, but it's already congested.
There first.
Into Thin Air is already number one, where it's been for a long time. If anyone else knows of a movie that has been number one and been there without moving at one particular cinema for longer than Into Thin Air in Menang since 2008, you are to declare it. So, Attack the Block. Tell us the basic story, tell us the idea, Joe, and then we'll talk about your movie.
Attack the Block is about a gang of teenage kids who protect their South London tower block from an alien invasion.
There you go, in a sentence. Was that your pitch?
Yeah, was that... There you go.
Yeah, inner city versus outer space. It is. It's a
great tagline on the poster,
thank you.
By the way.
It's it's a throwback to the movies I used to love when I was growing up, to 80s creature movies. And in the 80s, America made a series of amazing films that kind of fused social realism with fantasy. E.T., Critters, Gremlins, Tremors, Predator to an extent.
2,
That's a sort of Predator 2. And when I was growing up, I was always frustrated that British cinema never attempted a narrative like that. And I would come out of the cinema in Streatham or Brixton or the West End as a kid and project my fantasies onto my environment like all kids do. But I never saw that reflected in our cinema. We kind of did it well on TV, didn't we? But never cinematically. So this is my attempt to redress that, really.
It's interesting to hear somebody mention Critters, because nobody mentions Critters anymore. I remember one of the first films I ever reviewed for Time Out was Critters 2, the main course, I think it was called.
Critters has quite a good rep in America.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it was a bigger cult hit. I think did it get a theatrical release over here?
It did. Yeah, that's how I ended up reviewing it. Yeah, I mean, it
but
was a bit rubbish, but it was,
it's good. It stands up pretty well, Critters.
I must see it again.
Yeah,
viewers
good.
of the live stream will be able to see quite how tired Joe is, because he can barely hold his head up without the use of both hands.
Yeah,
we had to move
my microphone,
Mark's very large microphone, because it was in the way of Joe's face.
You understand that the reason that I have this stand as opposed to that is because he's got that, right? So he's got a
very big microphone. It's two coloured. It's amazing.
It's an award-winning. It's an award-winning.
We can see who wears the trousers round here.
We can, yeah. We can see who's the presenter.
Mr. Kermode
looks the contributor.
Looks like he's got a Satsuma on a
Kermode.
stick.
A Kermode is a portable toilet.
I'm sorry, Kermode. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm not doing well with you.
Moreover,
I'm baiting you.
You had this discussion on your show about how you mispronounce my name.
My brain is.
Let's try Joe Cornish.
Joe Cornish. Yes,
I like it. Sounds like a Rolls Royce.
And your film Attack the Block.
The film.
Yes, there we go.
I'm trying to talk about his film.
I know.
I'm trying to talk about your film, Joe. Okay.
Good
I know
for you,
you want
sir.
to move on to peripheral
Thank you.
matters. The film starts with a mugging, as I believe the story for this film does. You were mugged a few years back. Who mugged you?
A little group of kids. It was quite a pathetic encounter, but it really made me think in terms of, it wasn't a particularly threatening incident, but it really surprised me, and it made me want to find out why that kid had made that, thought that was an acceptable thing to do at that time, and so that spurred a lot of research.
How old were they?
They were young.
13, 14, that kind of thing?
Well, in a way that is a reveal in the film. So
I'm talking about your incident when you.
Yeah, but the film takes one or two things from that, so it's so some of it is part of the plot, but so that's a reveal in the story. But yeah, they were surprisingly young, and yeah, it just made me intrigued with the character, because it was absolutely the exception to the rule of my life growing up in South London. I'd never seen that before, never had an encounter anything like that before. So I was intrigued, and I did a lot of research to try and find a kid who had done something like that and find out why he had ended up in that place where he thought that was an acceptable thing to do, kind of thing. But that is very much, Attack the Block is trying to be like a John Carpenter movie. It's basically can be viewed as just a crazy, fun, cool action thriller. But beneath it, if you choose to see it, is a little bit of a social subtext, a little like Assault on Precinct 13. or The Thing, or in fact, a lot of 80s. A lot of movies generally have a subtext. E.T. is a film about divorce, and as much as it's a film about
absolutely.
an alien. Gremlins even is a film about if you really want to get into it, it's thematically about the death of the American manufacturing industry or the threat that Asia
studied
was.
Well, and also it's the anti, It's a Wonderful Life and all the stuff with Santa Claus getting stuck down the chimney. Actually, the funny thing about Gremlins is people forget just how black the humour in it is. I think the first Gremlins is still rated 15 here. I mean, it certainly was when it first came out because there's all the stuff with the grandmother. And I mean, it's an edgier film than people remember.
Well, that's another thing, and that's another thing Attack the Block is trying to do, because in the 80s you weren't really sure what you were going to get when you went to the cinema. I remember not being allowed to see Scanners.
Yeah, well, Scanners was an X certificate, wasn't it? It was 18.
But then going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, and there was a guy's head exploding.
Right, okay.
And it seemed to me that the message was, you're too young to see people's heads exploding. That'll freak you out. Your actual head might explode. So when I saw it in Raiders, I was like, man, this is really transgressive. There's swearing in early Spielberg films.
Yeah, there is.
Goonies has a lot of swearing. In E.T. there's I'm not sure it's a line I could even repeat on 5 Live.
No, it almost certainly isn't.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, yes.
And
Although that was given, it was that a U certificate or an A certificate?
It's a U certificate. And isn't that interesting?
It is. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was very heavily cut by the BBFC.
Well, that was
the second one.
Because of there was the heart being ripped from the chest.
Exactly. But the end, you're right. The climax of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and again, turn your volume down if you haven't seen this, or if you haven't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, where have you been? When the Nazi's face melts off, it is a special effect that will be up there with any Fulci movie.
It's like Tom Savini or
genuinely
something.
is. Genuinely is.
So I would.
But also the same is true of Jaws. Jaws was an A-rated film, and it's got the dismembered the leg floating down there. It's got the thing when the shark actually bites Robert Shaw in. I mean, it's full on. I remember seeing that at the ABC in Turnpike Lane and being absolutely paralysed with fear and thinking, this is an A certificate film. What does an X certificate film look like if I can see this and I'm like 11?
You were saying about the research that you carried out to find out the kind of kids who would have carried out this kind of crime. So you went where with what?
I went to, basically I formulated a story. I wanted to take that experience and then kind of combine it with what I was talking about earlier, with that creature feature thing and that desire to see an escapist movie. So I formulated a story, and then I went round loads and loads of youth clubs in South London and talked to hundreds and hundreds of young people, talked them through the story. I made notes of everything they said. I tried to teach myself the slang they used as if it was like a linguaphone course, or I was learning Italian or something, and I did it for months and months and months and months until I thought I was in a position to write in their voices.
Because it's fair to say that the voices that they speak in would not normally come out of your mouth.
No, but I was looking for things in this scenario that were secretly science fictional. So the blocks those kids live in, to me, look like massive clapped-out spaceships, like the Nostromo or the Poseidon, or and plus I wanted to evoke the science fictional sort of futuristic optimism with which that architecture was designed. Because those blocks have sort of become signifiers of urban deprivation, but when they were built, they were these science-fictional spaces. The vehicles the kids used, I thought, were science-fictional. The BMXs reminded me of E.T., the little mini-motos and mopeds reminded me weirdly of, like, Mos Eisley or the speeder bikes in Jedi. The clothes they wore looked like samurais or bandits or ninjas. There were so many things. The maps outside estates felt to me like the map on the flyleaf of a Tolkien novel, like a map of Middle-earth. And most of all, the language. As a science fiction fan, these alien languages are fun and cool and popcorny, whether it be Navi or Klingon. We know what Bespin is, we know what Hoth is, we know what dilithium crystals are.
And they cannot take it anymore.
And these kids have invented their own language, and it's like flipping Chaucer. It's colourful, it's chewy, it's cool, it's useful, and it is genuinely the argot, not just of those kids, but of most kids now know how to talk in that way. And I thought it was a science fictional thing. Most of all, it reminded me of Clockwork Orange, of
Nadsat.
Yeah.